A student at a prestigious university returned home from the library and was never seen again. From the very first days of the investigation, alarming, downright strange and even outrageous facts began to appear in this case, and ultimately it led to a change in the law. Despite all this, it was not possible to find out the truth for several decades, and only in 2024 the case was finally solved. Tara Baker was born on January 20, 1977 in a suburb of the American city of Atlanta, Georgia. Her parents divorced when she was young. After a while, my mother married another man, with whom they had a son. In total, Tara had 2 brothers and a sister, of whom she was the eldest. From early childhood, the girl began to be interested in the legal system and laws, as a result of which she set herself the goal of becoming either a lawyer or a judge. She held court hearings with her soft toys, concluded comic agreements with relatives and letters to politicians. Once she even wrote to the current president. Her performance was tearing up Tara's favorite TV show, and in the letter she expressed her dissatisfaction to him. After graduating from high school, the girl entered Georgia College and graduated ahead of schedule in just 3 years, receiving 2 bachelor's degrees related to law. Tara then attended the University of Georgia in 1990 to pursue a financial education on her way to her dream career. The university was considered one of the best law schools in the country and was also located in a small town called Athens, just a few hours away from her parents' home, so it was the best choice for Tara. Tara decided not to live in the dormitory, but to rent housing off campus. She chose a private house, divided into 3 rooms that were rented out. The other 2 rooms were rented by other university students, one of whom Tara knew well from college. The girl also worked for some time at a prestigious law firm, which allowed her not only to cover rent and other costs, but also to gain valuable experience in her future specialty. In January 2001, when Tara was 23, she was a sophomore. The girl spent a lot of time in the university library, preparing for classes, and the evening of January 18th was no exception. She and her friend went to the library and spent several hours there, after which her friend went home around 7:30. Tara decided to stay late and called this friend from the library at approximately 9:46 p.m. to see if she had made it home. The girl also told her that she planned to go home in a few minutes. The next day, around 6 p.m., her mother, Virginia Baker, received a phone call. At first, the woman thought someone was trying to make fun of her on the other end of the line and asked if her daughter had ever been arrested because they needed her fingerprints. Thinking it was a joke, Virginia hung up, but still decided to call the police station. To her surprise, they confirmed to her that she had spoken with a real detective and told her that there had been a fire in Tara's house. The mother, who still did not fully understand what was happening, asked to call her daughter to the phone. However, the detective replied that they could not find it. An unidentified body was found, which is why they were asking about Tara's fingerprints. They were further explained that the police had so far only been able to find one of Tara's neighbors, and she was not in the house at the time of the fire. The location of the second girl and Tara herself remained unknown. Researchers assumed that the body found belonged to one of them. Virginia asked to describe the room in which the body was found, and the policeman's response left her speechless. She was told that there were a lot of different antiques there, and Tara was just fascinated by them and had collected a large collection in her room. The girl's family immediately went to the studio after this news, hoping that everything that was happening was some kind of misunderstanding and everything was in order. When they arrived at the police station, no one spoke to them for a long time, keeping the family in the dark. A few hours later, one of the detectives nevertheless informed them that the body in the house belonged to Tara, and the cause of her death was not a fire, but a murder. He then said that he was too tired to answer their questions and left. But before that, he added that Tara left him a gift under her nails. Particles of the criminal's skin were found, and perhaps he could be identified. Tara's relatives, who were shocked by the news of her murder, did not understand what was happening, but none of the policemen bothered to provide them with any additional information. However, no one wanted to share information with them, and since then the local police department has not contacted them, and the girl's relatives had to literally extract information from them bit by bit, calling and coming to the station. With great difficulty, they only managed to partially find out what happened there. At approximately 11 a.m. on January 19, firefighters received a call to Tara's address. After extinguishing the fire, they discovered a body in the house, which was later identified as that of Tara Baker. Medical experts came to the conclusion that the girl was killed. Signs of suffocation and puncture wounds were found on her body. In addition, she was allegedly subjected to violence. The fire started after her death, causing investigators to conclude that the criminal was trying to destroy evidence in this way. However, the parents were never able to get the police to show them the medical expert's report or even tell them the details of the murder. Later, Tara's relatives found out that much of the evidence could have been destroyed during the fire extinguishing. The girl's family also learned that investigators most likely did not even cordon off the house after discovering the body, which is why anyone could approach it and even go inside. The relatives collected all these pieces of information, faced not only with the reluctance of the police to inform them about the progress of the investigation, but also with constant rudeness and lack of professionalism. At some point, they even started recording these conversations and tried to complain to local investigators, but this led to nothing. In the end, they decided to start their own investigation and turned to a famous criminologist who agreed to help them. But here too a problem arose. The local police department agreed to show him the case file only on the condition that he would not share the information or his findings with anyone other than investigators, including his family. Tara, her relatives, were not even able to obtain the girl's death certificate. They were simply not given it for 10 years, until the family wrote to the state governor. And only after that they were given this document, but even then they refused to enter a detailed cause of death, indicating only multiple injuries. Nevertheless, the police still conducted an investigation, but there were very controversial issues here too. When firefighters extinguished the fire and discovered the body, they called the police to the scene. Realizing that the victim died as a result of murder, investigators tried to find any evidence at the crime scene. However, the entire room was damaged by fire and flooded with water, and, as relatives later found out, no one examined some of the surviving items, at least for fingerprints. The police found that her laptop was missing from Tara's room. Given that the year was 2001, this was a rather cumbersome piece of equipment, but no other valuables were missing from the house, casting doubt on the idea that the murder was the result of a robbery. However, the police did not find any signs of breaking or entering, which led them to believe that Tara might have known her killer and let him in voluntarily. However, the fire and the actions of the firefighters damaged the crime scene so much that it was extremely difficult to say for sure. Both of her neighbors were in other cities that evening, so Tara was home alone. Establishing the time of the murder was quite problematic, so medical experts took a period from 10 p.m., when the girl left the library, to 11 a.m., when neighbors called firefighters to the scene. Most likely, the crime occurred closer to 1 a.m., since the fire did not take much time to spread. Police also received statements from witnesses who saw a middle-aged white man running down their street. He was wearing only a t-shirt, which seemed strange, because it was winter outside. Another interesting detail was that a few days before the murder, the University of Tara received a call. There was a separate number for requests for information about students, such as their phone number. Before the murder, a man called there who sounded like he was very drunk. He asked for Tara Baker's phone number and was able to write it down correctly only on the 8th try. It was not possible to establish his identity. The police also knew that Tara was away from home at the time of the murder. The alibi she provided was confirmed, but they were in no hurry to remove him from the list of suspects. Even after confirming his alibi, the police treated him as a suspect, calling him and his parents in the middle of the night and demanding that he come to their station in another city to provide additional biological samples, answer questions, or undergo a polygraph interrogation. It was the guy who had to identify her body. He lived in another city and arrived immediately when he received a call about the fire. At Tara's house, despite the fact that the girl's parents were already in the city, the police asked the guy to identify Tara. However, she was still in the house, and he was led straight there. However, the guy was not allowed to go inside, so one of the police went into the house, took a photo of the body and showed him this photo directly from the camera screen. The guy, who was in a state of shock, said that he could not understand whether it was really Tara. He added that he gave her earrings and if he saw them, he would be able to tell for sure. Then the policeman went back into the house, took off the earrings and showed them to the guy, after which he confirmed that they belonged to Tara. Soon the police became interested in another person. This was a university student who studied in the same group as Tara. He had a very problematic reputation. He constantly asked many students out on dates and often did not react to their refusals. The young man also asked Tara out on a date, but she turned him down over and over again because she had a boyfriend. But he continued to insist. Some girls also said that this man frightens them with his strange behavior and makes them feel dangerous. At one point, he even asked Tara's friends to follow him, which was a very controversial decision. But this came to nothing. Another suspect was a lawyer who worked in the same company as Tara. Talking with colleagues, investigators found out that shortly before the murder the man began to behave rather strangely. Their company had a group of employees who communicated closely with each other and were friends. They regularly spent time outside of work, going to the city to relax in various establishments. But at some point this lawyer stopped going with them. Moreover, just a few days before the incident, he told Tara that he would not be able to come to her birthday, the celebration of which was supposed to take place the day after the murder. On the morning of January 19th, before the fire started, one of Tara's colleagues decided to try to persuade the man to come to this event. Because Tara considered him a good friend and she was hurt that he refused to be there. A colleague came into his office, but the man was not there. Considering that his workday had already started, this was strange since he was usually always present in the morning. But that day he was not in the office. The colleague also checked his work calendar, thinking the lawyer might have appointments, but it was empty. He never showed up that day. However, the next day he came to another colleague's house and behaved rather strangely. The substances he used could explain his behavior. But there was something else. A colleague saw several scratches on his neck that looked fresh. As we remember, under Tara's nails they found areas of skin that presumably belonged to the killer. The lawyer himself stated that Tara scratched him. When asked who he thought committed the crime, the man began shouting that it was her father. However, he did not provide any arguments in favor of this version. Another strange thing was that the lawyer suddenly quit just a few months after the murder and moved out of state. It is unknown whether the police checked his DNA with samples found under the victim's fingernails. Moreover, all these years there was no information about whether these samples were examined at all. As with all other aspects of the investigation, investigators shared absolutely no information, even with Tara's relatives. Later it turned out that that lawyer secretly met with 2 employees of the company, despite the fact that he was married. This could explain his strange behavior and absence from work for no apparent reason. Both of these women also said they believed the man was taking illegal drugs. The police were unable to find any evidence of his involvement in the murder, and in the end the man was temporarily no longer considered a suspect. Detectives also examined the employees of the company that maintained the house in which Tara lived and rented a room. They had a spare key. This could explain the lack of signs of a break-in, but even here they were unable to find any clues. Since then there has been no significant progress in this matter. The police continued to look for new suspects and witnesses, and also kept most of the details of what happened secret, explaining that the publication of existing information could harm the investigation. Over time, they received several more potential leads. One witness reported seeing a black man in front of Tara's house several hours before the fire. Another said that shortly after the murder he saw blood on a rag on one of Tara's classmates. The police followed up on both of these tips. Opportunity for the victim's parents to raise $27,000 as a reward for any information that helps solve the case. Over the course of 2 years, issues dedicated to packaging were published. In addition, another Georgia girl whose murder remained unsolved was also named. In 2023, the bill passed unanimously and the governor signed it in the presence of both victims' families. Once the law came into effect in 2023, a homicide unit was immediately created. They reviewed all available materials and began to study the few clues using modern DNA tools. All this went on for several months until the police called a press conference on May 13, 2024. On it they announced that 23 years after the murder, the criminal had finally been arrested. It turned out to be a solo man named Edric Faust. During the conference, investigators did not disclose how they found the suspect, saying only that they were helped in this by modern tools for studying DNA and other biological evidence. The reason they haven't released all the details is because it could harm the trial, which hasn't even started yet, only to announce the evidence against the man. However, in the arrest documents, Faust, among other things, was charged with abuse of the victim. Therefore, his biological material could lead to a DNA match. In addition, as we remember, particles of the attacker's skin were found under the victim's nails, and it is likely that modern tools made it possible to extract the killer's DNA from them. As for Faust, he should have been in the FBI database a long time ago, since he has dozens of arrests under his belt. The man committed crimes of varying severity, including assault, and served an impressive portion of his life in prison. At the time of Tara's murder, he was 25 years old and lived in the same city. However, the police said that they could not find any evidence that the suspect knew the victim. This indicates that Faust could still have entered her house or convinced the girl to let him in under some pretext. Detectives also said Faust would never have been traced to him just days before his arrest thanks to advanced DNA techniques. The man is now in prison awaiting the start of his trial, at which details of the evidence pointing to his guilt will become known. Apparently, detectives did indeed receive irrefutable DNA results, as the man was denied bail. Detectives have no doubt that Faust is guilty of the murder of Tara. Therefore, her case is officially considered solved. The family of the girl, who for 23 years never stopped fighting for the truth, was finally able to find out what happened to the eldest and thank the new team of detectives for putting an end to this case. As for Rhonda Coleman, the second girl named after the law, her case remains unsolved. However, her family can now hope that detectives will be able to uncover new evidence and bring the culprit to justice. As with Tara's case, please share your thoughts on this story in the comments, and don't forget to like this video if you liked it. Thank you for watching.